Hey, Sox fans. Welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, a local fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast, hosted by Nick Murawski and Pat Hester.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, this is episode 283. I am Nick Murawski, and this is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. So glad you're able to be with us. We do this live on Sunday nights on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, jump on in, give us your thoughts, especially on a night like tonight, where we are talking mass firings and does it even matter, and the old-fashioned crosstown classic that has been a nightmare for our White Sox this past season. You can find the podcast absolutely everywhere. Joining me, as usual, my best friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Buddy, we've been on for a minute and 14 seconds. We've already got people asking about what are we going to do to end the show? What are we going to do about Pedro Grifol quote of the week? Did we just follow him on social media, hoping he says something throughout the rest of the year that's quotable? Or do we just leave the poor man alone and let him just ride off into the sunset and, lick his wounds, as they say?
No, I've got a greatest, one of my favorites of all time to end the show. Maybe one last final Pedro Grifol quote of the week until we kind of keep an ear on what Sizemore has to say, and maybe we'll shift gears, or maybe Getz. I haven't really enjoyed some of the things that he's been saying lately, but yeah.
Oh, you haven't been a fan?
No, I'm not quite a fan of what he's been saying, but yeah, we've got a Pedro Grifol quote of the week. I also have an Ozzie Guillen quote, which I'm looking forward to at the end of our show. What a show we have. Trey, Sydney, Sean, Joe, welcome. David, good to have you with us live here on our YouTube channel. So, Pat, I am I'm not an I told you so kind of person, really. I'm not. However, on this program last week, towards the end of the show, I think I said, next time we talk, Pedro Grifol will not be the manager of the Chicago White Sox. And here on Thursday, an off day, after a clunky road trip in Oakland on the heels of a disastrous, 3-4 weeks, the losing streak snapped. They started a new one. There were some mass firings, of course. The big name, Pedro Grifol, gone. When you initially heard it, Pat, I mean, disbelief, kind of shaking your head. Yeah, I thought it was going to happen, or just like pure confusion.
Well, I think, elation was the first thought. I'm like, this nightmare is over, at least with Pedro. So you're a little bit excited about it. Then you realize that nothing is changing in the near future, regardless of who's the manager. But I guess it's a little bit, you just sit back and it's a little curious of why did it take so long, right? Why did it have to get to this point? Why couldn't you look at the 10-game losing streak in April last year? You combine that with the 3 wins, I think, over a month span to start this season, how you limped into, what was the All-Star break. And I think Getz maybe said it, and maybe you have it in the quotes, is, we want to see it with a fresh start coming out of the break, and, nothing had changed. And, but Getz also mentioned that there were some philosophical differences in the conversations that they had. So if you knew these differences existed and you continue to have conversations with your manager and nothing changes, why should it take that long? Why can't you come to an agreement that, listen, Pedro, you obviously want to do things the way you want to do them. This isn't the vision I have as the manager of this team. The results that you've shown under what you believe in haven't worked. So we're going to move in a different direction. I just don't. And again, I guess you could point back to the very easy thing of coming down to the dollars with Jerry. I get all that. But when you step back and you go, a real team would have said, we know that this is not our kind of guy. We don't really need to move forward with him anymore. Let's just cut bait. And again, it got back and forth. I think we were talking last week, and it's $1 million, it's $3 million, whatever he was making. It's not a lot of money to pay a guy to go away. So it is what it is. It's unfortunate that it took this long, but again, I guess first elated that he was dismissed, and then second, confused of why it needed to take this long.
Reminiscent at all of the Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams dismissal? Did you feel any similarities there?
Well, with that was, I mean, listen, there had to be a thought before Kenny and Rick were let go that maybe we should move on from this. Maybe there's enough evidence here over the 20 years these guys have been together, working here, and Kenny had been there for, I think, 30 something years, whatever it was. They've been in the organization for a long time. Please don't quote me on those exact timelines because they could be wrong, but they were together a long time. With that situation, it was like, again, if you're a real organization, you go, we know we're going to make a change. Let's not let these guys make trades that are going to determine the future of our organization for the next several years when they can't even agree on what they need to do. If Jerry is so involved and cares so much as he does, you wouldn't allow that to happen, but he did. I don't know if it was similar or not, Nick. I don't know if it really felt similar to me. Both, I think, are separate. They feel separate. They don't feel the same to me. They feel similar to you. Like
well, I'm going to unpack some of this, as we go, and I'm sure we'll be able to go back and forth, and folks in the comments will jump in terms of, well, it felt like we're going to act like a serious organization. Okay, which that's all of a sudden what it felt like when Rick and Kenny were gone, but way too late. Like this should have happened a long time ago. And then the bizarre timing of it, like why did they get hands in the trade deadline? And now you're deciding that you're going to dismiss them, but you still felt like, okay, we're moving on. We're being serious here. But then, at lightning speed, you sober up and you're like, oh, they're going to do that thing, aren't they? They're just going to promote Gats. They're not even going to do a real search, So I guess we aren't really a serious organization. There was that moment of, I thought, oh, we're going to get serious. Now, we don't know what kind of managerial search exactly is going to happen. I've got some quotes from Gats trying to explain to us what he's going to do. But I'm sorry, I just have that jaded Sox fan, personality right now where you're telling me we have all come to an agreement as a fan base, it seems like, that nothing is going to change while Jerry is still around. Okay. Yeah. So no matter what happens, it's just lipstick on a pig. So why would I think all of a sudden Getz and Jerry and all the baseball minds with the White Sox are going to really get serious? We're going to do something different this time. We're really going to bring in somebody that's like so progressive. And why would that happen? Why would they all of a sudden do that? And if they do that, then previously to the previous thing I just said, see Jerry is still around. So what does it matter if they bring in the greatest thing, if they can identify the greatest thing, if they know the smartest mind in baseball right now, and they could somehow convince this person, hey, you should come to the White Sox. I don't think they have the tools, the infrastructure, the know-how to really set this person up for success. So what does it matter?
Well, it's probably a foregone conclusion, right? Because didn't Bad News Bob tweet the other day that Skip Schumacher will be highly considered?
Oh, sure.
Now Skip did win NL Manager of the Year, correct? So I think he's a person that's qualified, obviously, for the job, but you can just read the tea leaves. That's a guy that Tony's going to want. Tony and Jerry are in lockstep with whatever goes on in that organization right now. So I don't think they can say it will be an exhaustive search, and whether it is or not, I think it's just a farce. I think it's still a thing that needs to be done because unlike last time, you didn't allow yourself to get free information from people. Listen, how would you do things? What do you think we're doing wrong here? What do you think you would, if you were the manager, how would you implement some change? Take some notes and at least get some feedback on how your organization's run, even if in your mind you're going Skip Schumacher. So I still think it needs to be done, although I think it's probably already a foregone conclusion. Is that crazy of me to think that as we sit here on August 11th, a couple days after the firing, that they've already decided who they're going to go with?
You're not crazy to think that. And that's how we're like starting to become conditioned to think as Sox fans. You could make the argument that Grady Sizemore is going to be your manager in 2025. I think he's under contract for one more year, and they're just going to stick with him.
This is a guy. Hold on, Grady Sizemore. Now, listen, whatever he might end up being as an interim manager, I remember talking about this with you on this show. He was a guy didn't even know that he wanted. He was just trying this out. He didn't know if he really even wanted to be a coach in Major League Baseball. That's the type of thing you do down in the minors to like go, do I really have a feel for this? Do I really care about wanting to be in an organization? Do I want to work my way up? Somehow, some way, he's found himself on a major league roster in terms of the coaching staff, and now an interim manager, a guy that doesn't even really know if this is something he wants to do or not.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a bunch of information or quotes or explanations on why Grady Sizemore. We'll get to a little bit of that. I'm sure a lot of people read through it over the last several days. I put some stuff out on social media when the firing happened about going with Ozzie Guillen. And Ozzie Guillen has been a guy that's been talked about, for years and has hung around. They maybe gave him an interview. Depending on who you talk to, it wasn't even a real interview last time around. And my reasoning for Ozzie, and I'm going to try to explain it, and maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. I totally understand if someone's like rolling their eyes and completely turns this off and is like, this guy is insane. I get that, because I know there's a lot of people that are completely done with Ozzie. He's got a lot of, I don't want to say flaws. I don't. It's just he's got his way of doing things, and it doesn't seem very progressive or new age for a lot of other folks. But going back to what I said previously about does it even really matter? I just don't think they're going to do a serious search. And I don't believe they have the system to cater to a new age baseball mind, to a new smart manager, somebody that, this is the next best thing. They do this really well and they're great with analytics. And it's like, well, we don't really do that here. We don't know how to do analytics. We don't have the departments for analytics. We don't really spend a lot of time with those departments. We have more ticket reps. That's kind of our thing. We do that. We don't do all of the new stuff that good clubs are doing. So if you go out there and you do an exhaustive search and you're like, hey, somehow Gatz is like, I know it. This is the person. This is the next manager everybody's going to be talking about. One, you got to convince them to come to the Sox. Would they even want that? You got Jerry that's going to have to pay, and most likely they're going to be coveted by other organizations if they're that great. And do the Sox even have all of the bells and whistles that will help this manager and the staff that they bring in? And if the answer is no, could the manager convince the Sox, hey, you got to get all these things to be caught up to speed? I don't think any of that's going to happen. So for me as a fan in the year 2025, when I have submitted to the fact that nothing is truly going to change as long as Jerry's around, just bring back Ozzie for fun. He's been around watching this team for 6-7 years. I'll just going to have some fun with it, because I don't think they're going to be very good in 2025. Ozzie clearly wants to manage again and wants to manage the White Sox, which few people out there openly will say, just put Ozzie in. That's where I'm at with that. Is that the smartest thing? Probably not, but I don't think the Sox know how to do the smartest thing or facilitate it.
It would probably win you some people back in terms of the fan base.
I think it will. I'm absolutely right.
And I know some folks will, roll the eyes. I get it. But there are a lot of people out there that would probably be excited to see Ozzie back in the dugout. But it goes against everything Getz said. We're going to go outside the organization. We're going to have an actual search. And, so it kind of ruled out right away Ozzie and AJ, which is another guy that was talked about in terms of candidates. So, I hear you on all those points, Nick. I really do. But one, Ozzie's going to need to be, he's got big league managerial experience. He's won a World Series. He's actually won 2 World Series, one as a coach, right, as a third base coach with the Marlins, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And he won one as a manager, obviously, with the White Sox. So he's going to come with a high cost. And anybody that you're going to get at a high cost, you're also going to have to give years to, Nick, because he's going to be put in a situation where this is a rebuild situation. This isn't a ready-made team that's, at least it's not a team like it was when he took over last time, where it's a average to, middling team that just needed something to propel them forward. And that something was, some good trades, obviously, that were made, a great pitching staff that was put together, and just everything kind of fell into place for them that year. This is a completely different situation. I believe Ozzie would probably have the stomach for it. And I think he would probably help in terms of getting people at least fundamentally sound, right? And working and doing the things that we thought Pedro could do and work on the margins. But I don't know that you're going to get Ozzie Guillen and just say, well, we can probably sign him with a 3-year deal, because he's going to want at least 5 or 6 years to say, listen, you have to give me time to be able to put this together the way it should be put together, and not judge me after the first 3 years, because it's going to be a train wreck still in terms of record, right?
Yeah, I hear you on that. And Trey mentioned it just in the comments I just saw. Like, who would be on a 3-year deal?
Nobody is.
Well, Pedro was on a 3-year deal because he had 0 managerial experience. Mm-hmm. And I think they knew the type of team that they were going to have for maybe a little while. But I don't want to go down. I definitely don't want to go down that road again. I don't want to go with somebody that has 0 experience. And he is, though, the talk of the town. He's the next. I need somebody that has experience, that knows how to handle a clubhouse, the dynamics, the personalities, development. It sounded like, man, as Getz was talking more and more recently, things haven't been right for a while. They just weren't seeing eye to eye in a lot of different things. And I have come to believe that Getz was instrumental in bringing Pedro Grifol in. Han was the official hire, as he was apparently for Tony La Russa, but we all know the real story behind that. I'm pretty sure Getz, who had Jerry's ear, pushed Grifol through the finish line on that hire. So again, if Getz is in charge of this and he still has Jerry's ear, which we know he does, man, I am really concerned about who they think is going to be the next great thing in terms of managers.
Well, again, it's going to come down to years, and if you're going to get somebody that's got experience, it's going to be more than what you were paying Pedro. So that's going to be a lot to ask of an owner that typically doesn't do that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, what managers has he hired in the past that have had remove Tony La Russa from the conversation? That was more of a unique situation, let's just say. But what managers has he hired that have had long tenures or tenures in Major League Baseball in terms of managers or in terms of managing a club? Can you think of any?
Guillen went from 2004 to 2011.
But that was his first gig. I mean, I'm talking about look
at before Guillen. Jerry Manuel, wasn't that his first managerial gig?
I don't remember Jerry ever managing another team.
I think he managed the Mets or a different team after the Sox, but he had the division title in 2000. You
had to beg Robin Ventura to take a job.
You had to bet. Oh my goodness, was that and that's what I'm talking about. It's like this is what the organization does. They're going to give you all this talk and all this lip service and all this. This is what we're going to do. But when it comes down to it, I feel like at the end of the day, they just rest on, hey, we don't know what we're doing, so we're going to bring in like a fan favorite. We need to get fans back. We need to somehow get back in good graces. Things aren't going to be good for a while. I honestly, I don't think they're going to go with Ozzie, and I don't think they're going to go with AJ. Okay. I'm just for argument's sake, just to put it out there, I'm making that argument. I don't know who I want as manager. I really don't. I don't want Schumacher. He doesn't do anything for me. Cool. He won the manager of the year award in 2023. Look at where the Marlins are at right now. I'm curious what the list is, I'm curious of who they bring in, how they interview, and maybe something just sparks in that interview where they just click, they lock, and it's like, hey, we're on the same page. This is something I didn't expect that was going to happen, but your experience, your background, your references, whatever, it lines up and it jives with what we want, for the future. And I don't know who that is right now. I know the names. I know all the names that are talked about, but none of those really gets me very excited.
I'll get more interested and excited about it when the rumors start to come out where there was an interview with this person or that person, or there was a candidate. And then I'll kind of take a step back and listen to what, people in the know say. Like, listen, this would be a really good move for the White Sox. And I forgot about somebody that they hired that did have experience, and that was Ricky. Maybe you knock on Ricky's door again,
Oh, man.
Say, Rick, we need you in it for another couple of years, and then we're going to dump you, maybe if we're ever good again. But we just need you to kind of be around. Ricky's boys don't quit. That'd be fantastic again.
Were you surprised, Pat, that it wasn't just Grifol? It was Montoya. It was Tosar. It was Rodriguez. I mean, I was hopeful that we would just get Pedro, and I really thought they would just slide Montoya. Not only did Pedro go, but everybody that was kind of close and that he was surrounded by people that he brought in himself from the Royals organization, the untouchable Ethan Katz. He's Teflon Katz, man. He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No. And that, again, that's how this organization does it. It's, listen, we like to hire our own, pitching coaches. And whoever we hire as manager, this is who you're going to inherit as a pitching coach, which, again, if you've got success doing it, I guess, and you like that, it is what it is. But boy, I'd really like to give my next manager the autonomy to pick who he wants as his pitching coach.
And Greg mentioned it in the chat here, and I think I put it up on the live stream of, will the new manager, not just the intern, but will the new manager in 2025, or they'll hire this fall, because it sounds like the search is going on, it's happening soon, or at least sooner rather than later. Will that manager that's going to be for the 2025, will they get to pick a new pitching coach? Will they say, look, I need my people, and this Katz guy, he's been around, like Don Cooper, survived several different regimes. We know about Daryl Boston. Hey, I need to bring in my pitching coach. I need it all. Will they? I hope they do. I'm sorry. I don't understand why Katz is still somebody thinks he's really, really, really special. He might be special, but I don't know if he's that special where he's surviving all of this, these flips and turns.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd have to ask, maybe somebody that was unbiased, that's in the know, and be like, listen, can you tell me about Ethan Katz, and is he a difference maker? And is he going to, if you're looking at, again, a lot of the young pitching they have in the minors that eventually be coming through the system, do you trust in Ethan Katz to kind of foster that growth once they get here? And if the answer is yes, then fine, I'm in for it. It's hard for me to really sit back and go, well, this guy didn't work out again. That's all Ethan Katz. I don't know. I mean, you and I are just fans, but I think it's like it's just like a hitting coach. It's like hitting coaches to me are like a dime a dozen. When the team hits, the hitting coach can get the accolades. When they don't hit, it's like, get the next guy in here. This team hasn't really done anything well this year or the last several years. So why should Ethan Katz be the one that's spared? I have no idea, but apparently he does enough to kind of hold on to him.
Yeah. That's definitely something to watch. I'm gonna go over the names here of all the folks that were brought in. If you haven't been paying attention, and I totally understand if you haven't, because our Chicago White Sox are 28-91, 28-91 as we record here on August 11th. 63 games under 500. 41 games back in that gentle, soft AL Central division, with a run diff of minus 251. So Grady Sizemore, I don't know why I call him Brady, and I'm screwing up Brady and Grady.
That's okay. It's listen, I'm not
a long
gonna
summer.
I just wrote down an error for Nick, and that's okay. I keep score at home. That's fine.
Sizemore is your interim manager. Sox also named minor league field coordinator Doug Sisson as bench coach. AAA manager Justin Jurashel, I'm still working on that last name too, as the third base coach, and minor league instructor Mike Gellinger as assistant hitting coach. Gellinger has got some 05 experience. They were saying on the telecast this past weekend that I guess Paul Konerko really raved about Gellinger. So he's Mike Gellinger is now all of a sudden my favorite coach in the White Sox system.
Now he's your untouchable.
Yeah, Mike Gellinger is untouchable, by the way. Yeah, you can't move him.
He might as well just be the manager.
He might as well. Although I'm still maybe Konerko wants to manage, but then that goes against
want him to be player manager. I get
that goes against my you need to have experience. We've got this is not your Grifol quote of the week, but this is just some of Pedro Grifol's parting words when he was given his walking papers this past Thursday. Grateful to Jerry, Rick, and Kenny for the opportunity. I have health and a loving family. I have a spiritual foundation that gives me incredible strength, peace, and freedom. This won't break me. As a matter of fact, it only motivates me. The next thing I do in my life, I will do it for the love and passion I have for this game and for the sole purpose of serving others. That was almost like when a villain in a superhero movie, gets defeated. It's just like, you haven't heard the last of me. I will be back. I don't think he'll be back managing anytime soon, but there it was, parting words from Grifol.
Not in the Major League Baseball. He may be managing at different levels. Joliet Slammers could probably use another manager at some point that could work out for him. Schaumburg Boomers, Feel the Boom. There's a lot of teams out there that could use a guy like Pedro Grifol. Maybe he finds his way back to Kansas City at some point. Maybe he shows them, what they let go. This is what you let get away. Let me back on your staff. I don't know, but he's not going to be managing a major league team ever. There's no way. There's too much stink on him. I mean, you can't. How do you walk in and have an interview and put your resume on the table and go, here it is?
Well, at that point, you've got to be throwing people under the bus left and right. It's like, this was wrong, and I didn't have this, and they don't have a new stadium, so how can we compete and win? You know that, right? So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just loitering around Kauffman Stadium right now, just kind of like peeking through windows, like, hey, you guys need anything? You need any help? Hey, it's Pedro. I brought barbecue.
Great. Oh,
I have barbecue with me.
If I was him, I would hang around. I mean, football season's starting. I mean, you could hang out at the tailgates. I mean, it's a great place to be down near Kauffman Stadium in Arrowhead. I mean, that's fantastic.
It is.
Why not?
That's some good eating over there, some good times. Jerry Reinsdorf, no surprise here, did not speak, did not give any that I heard. I don't think he gave an official statement, but you had a little kind of Jerry story since the last time we talked, which I found very interesting. I'm sure our listeners would love it.
Yeah, and listen, I'm going to tell you and others this story that it's not going to shock you. It's not going to be like, oh my gosh,
that's true.
Blown away.
Yeah, that's true.
It shouldn't shock you, but it angered me to the point where I needed to text you. Which sometimes when I hear things and I must get it out of my system, and I reach out to you. I was talking to somebody, and this is nobody at ESPN Chicago, nobody on the inside, nobody in the media. Nobody associated with the team, and I'm not going to say the person's name because I wasn't given permission to really tell this story, so I'm not going to use his name. But I was sitting and talking with this gentleman this past Friday who's connected to the organization and has friendships with ex-ball players and friendships that are higher up in the organization, okay? And just, again, having a conversation, he said he was at the ballpark recently and said he bumped into Jerry. And they had some pleasantries they exchanged. And this person asked Jerry, like, how are you holding up through this year? And Jerry's response back was, at least we're not the Cubs. We didn't have any expectations. They had expectations. At least we're not the Cubs, which angered me, because if you were the Cubs, you'd be 59-60. You'd be a game under 500. You'd have 31 more wins at this point. You'd be 3 games out of the final wild card spot. Now that's in the NL. Now I get that's different leagues. I get all that. I would kill right now to be where the Cubs are at, to have that kind of talent. And the only thing that separates you from deciding whether you've had a successful quote unquote season or not is dependent upon the expectations that were thrust upon you. That's ridiculous. That incenses me beyond belief. I can't believe that the owner of this team, instead of saying, boy, oh boy, this has been tough, I really cannot believe it's gone this way. I got up there and told people that this would be a quick fix and that this would be a good year. I'm really, really disappointed. I'm up a lot of nights. I don't sleep well. Anything like that. But what does he say? And this was even before. This was not this weekend.
This was before this series, most recent series.
This series.
Yeah.
This was a couple weeks ago that this encounter happened. His first thought was to go to the Cubs. Now, how little brother is that of you, right? Why do you even concern? I know as fans, if the Cubs are losing, it gives me a chuckle, right? If the Cubs are supposed to be great and they're awful, it gives me a little bit of joy in my life. But the owner of the team should care less about what's happening on the north side and be so zero focused on what's happening with my own team and how to make it better, and not worrying about the other team in town, the division you play in. Just be like, how can I make this organization, this team, the best it can be, so I can be proud of it, so our fans can be proud of it, so our fans can walk around wearing a White Sox hat and not be ashamed of their fandom, and not have to be snickered at by other people, and be proud to cheer for this team. But that's what you do. At least we're not the Cubs. What a loser he is. And the fact that there were more signs, I know you were going to get to the signs about the sell the team stuff. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. I mean, listen. And the other sad part about it was, this gentleman told me, and again, he's more of I would call him a Jerry apologist, probably, and that's fine if that's your opinion of him. You have a friendly relationship with the man, that's fine. But he made the comment to me, and for 88, he looks great, which made me even more upset. So,
that's gonna be the worst part of it.
That was the worst part.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just know, again, it shouldn't come as a shock. This isn't like breaking news that he would. This is his character. This is who he is. And for anybody to believe him when he gets up there at a press conference at any point, or talks at a convention, or gives a speech somewhere and talks about how he loves this team or loves the game of baseball, blah 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 blah, he doesn't. He's lying to everybody. And if you believe it, I really feel bad for you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. It's sickening. It turned my stomach when I heard it, but it wasn't shocking based off of other little anecdotes and stories we've heard over the years. That classic one that I was thinking, he was talking to somebody in the Marlins organization years ago, and said something about, the best thing you can do is kind of finish second and give your fans that taste, that hope, but never really go all in, put your chips all in. It makes him coming back. And he denied it when he was approached about that. And there have been other things that I've heard over the years. Is everybody listening, has heard their fair share of just gross stuff. And you're right, Pat. It's, why is that the expectation? Why are you aligning yourself with the Cubs and watching what they do? And as long as we're, not in their world, or with the rest of the AL Central, which he's gone on record talking about that most recently last season, you should be concerned about your own club. Are we doing the best we possibly can? Like, our standards are so high, like we're above the line. Here's the line. We are always going to strive for being above the line in whatever we do. I don't care about anybody else, whether it's in the city or in our division. We need to constantly be looking at ourselves. Are we doing everything in any department above the line? so we've got this well-oiled machine, and we are a force. Sox, of course, got swept on the South Side in this little 2-game series. They were 0-for in the 4 games this past season. So, Jerry's comments are even more ridiculous at the conclusion of this weekend. And again, there are people that will constantly defend, and it's your right to defend Jerry. And maybe you just want to defend him because of some other relationship, or you think it's more than just Jerry, but he doesn't care. He absolutely does not care. It is always on his terms. And that little story just cemented things even more of how angry we should all be. I had a Florida sports radio station reach out to me last week. I think it was Thursday. And on social media, a producer contacted me and they said, hey, I think it was like an affiliate of ESPN in Florida. Would you want to come on and just do a phone interview and talk about how bad the Sox are? He's just like, sure. It was a 10-minute commitment. It was in the morning. It was easy. Like everything went on time. It was, they called and their questions are fascinating. Anybody that is in the sports world outside of Chicago, it's fascinating to me because they are just in bewilderment. How did this happen to you guys? Weren't you just in the playoffs winning the division a few years ago? How did you fail with that core? Like, do you have any hope? Is all this other stuff? And, I definitely gave Jerry his due. And I said, listen, things absolutely have to change, but sadly, nothing is going to change until Reinsdorf is gone. And we are not talking about how bad of an owner this guy is at a national level. We talk about it at a local level, but we need to start talking it more at a national level. You talk about John Fisher in Oakland, but Jerry needs to be nationally. And these sell the team banners. Okay. There was another one that popped up. I love it. I love seeing these. And I think his handle on Twitter, Los White Sox, Dos White Sox. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it, but he had tagged me. He brought the sign in, and he got all hassled by security. Oh my goodness, you got to sell the team. I think it was maybe Patrick Nolan that said something about security. Well, they'll fall asleep if there's a gun coming in, but when there's a sign that's coming in, oh my goodness, it's 5 alarm. Like, we got to compensate to sell the team banner sign. So he was able to keep the sign, but again, to me personally, sell the team doesn't specifically mean, in my mind, like he's really going to sell the team, because we know he's not. But it's the ethos, it's the idea of, you're a horrible owner. You're horrible to this franchise. Fans deserve so much better. You need to absolutely get better or leave. And I like the concept of the national exposure. The sell the team gets national exposure, little at a time, little here and there. And that's what I think needs to happen more, is how bad Jerry is at a national level.
Well, that would be great. But I mean, do you think any of that really gets to him? I don't know.
I don't, we could try. That's the only thing. We could just keep trying, keep hammering away. Like, don't give up on that. And just get that to trend nationally. Locally, we all know he's an absolute joke. It's pathetic. There's a lot of apathy that's setting in, but you could at least try and say, you know what, just don't give up on this concept. Like, this is the mindset. This is the fan mindset. But to each their own, do it, don't do it. I find it fascinating. I love it. I love a little anarchy.
Yeah. And you'd like to think, I love a little anarchy, like it's a mutiny or something. I mean, you'd love to think that the fans have some type of power in this situation. I mean, and I guess they do if they just stop showing up, which in all accords, the fans will stop showing up here now, right? School's starting back up, at least in most of the suburbs, like this week. Attendance already stinks. The team stinks. You're not going to be anywhere close to drawing a lot of fans. So that happens this time of year anyway, where attendance starts to take a drastic dip. But I don't think that bothers him all that much, because if you remember, I mean, he doesn't have to pay that much when they're under $1.3 million or something like that for the season. So low attendance really doesn't hurt him that much, right? It's been low attendance for a long time. He gets a break when they have a lower attendance for the year. So,
Yeah.
and I don't remember the exact number is, but that's his deal with the sports authority. Like, there's nothing you can do at this point. You can say, well, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do this. It doesn't really do anything. So I guess it's voicing your opinion in this way. I just wish there was some way that Major League Baseball could, and they won't, because he's too connected with the, you know, the boys club that is the owners, or most of the old owners. But like, listen, man, you are making an embarrassment of yourself and one of the teams that is part of this, right? This group in one of our largest markets. We can't have it this way anymore. We've already tried to incentivize you not to be one of the worst because of the new draft rules, right? Even because of the market that they're in. So, but that doesn't bother him. Nothing seems to bother him in terms of, boy, what can we do to Jerry now to try and motivate him to act like a large market team? Nothing seems to work. So the only thing that will work is when he's not here anymore. And whether it's him eventually selling or, God forbid, something tragic happens to him. But it's sad that I feel like I'm in that spot. Because as a person that tries to be compassionate and good and have Christian values, I really shouldn't be thinking, boy, I hope this person gets hit by a bus today. But I find myself feeling that way a lot.
Yeah, I feel like he probably doesn't hoof it. He's probably not walking from place to place. He probably has a driver.
The man is not in shape, smoking cigars, probably eating a hot dog at the ballpark.
You think he gets in the hot dog line?
I think
maybe he has the hot dogs brought to him in his suite. It's, to me, it's just more like I just envision him gone, like be gone. But and that it just always circles back to this whole managerial conversation. And moving forward, it's, he's going to have the ultimate say. And his chosen person is Getz, a yes man. So don't you think that manager, which is why it rules out Ozzie and AJ, is going to have to be someone to play ball like they had with Pedro? Pedro didn't know enough to know enough. It was his first time gig. He didn't care. He just wanted a gig. He just wanted to be a major league manager. Yeah, sure. I'll say yes. I'll kiss your ass. I'll say all the right things. Whatever. Oh, you got problems. You got money problems. You're not going to spend. You don't know what you're going to, there's going to be a rebuild. I just want to be a manager. I'll say all the things you want me to say. And I think that's where they're headed. That's why it's really difficult for me to think, oh, things are going to turn around. They're going to really invest and do a real search. It's like, do you trust them to identify the correct person? And do we have the tools in this organization to foster smart, cutting edge baseball? And that comes with a price. So what is Getz exactly looking for? Getz wants someone currently wearing a uniform. Again, does that matter? But this is Getz. It's important to bring in a new voice, a fresh voice, perhaps that's been exposed to areas of this game that we don't currently have in our organization. Lucky for him, there's a lot of that everywhere. Very curious to learn more about some of these individuals, and we'll get it to the finish line and name the next manager. I feel like it's a fairly basic structure. I'm very open-minded. I look forward to getting it started. There's always some hoops you have to work through because you're at the mercy of other clubs and you want to respect other clubs that are looking forward to finish strongly or make the playoffs, whatever it is. We also don't want to rush into this. I anticipate naming the new manager after the conclusion of the season.
Got it. So people that are currently wearing a uniform, I wrote a mailmen wear uniform. Crossing guards. Are they looking at crossing guards? Possibly police officers, firefighters, all wear uniforms, Nick. I mean, does that matter at all? It kind of takes out a lot of people that maybe you would think, and I think maybe gets put the criteria out there to kind of eliminate especially the Ozzie talk right away. Like, listen, we're going to nip this in the bud right now because I don't want this to linger. We're not interested in that. This is the criteria. which I like the criteria myself, right?
But it was similar criteria to last time, Pat. They wanted,
Yeah.
and they even said someone with like managerial experience with recent success.
Yeah.
And boy, when that question or that criteria got thrown back at Hahn, he doubled down on that 2015 Royals World Series. Like it was just yesterday. Like, how dare you question the length of that? Like that. I think even throw in the Cubs in that. He's like, oh, I'm sure the Cub fans would, have something to say about their 2016 championship as like, oh yeah, how dare you talk about the length of that? That was a long time ago. I'm sorry. In sports years, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's now become a what have you done for me lately business, professional sports, right? It no longer are players or managers or organizations given these years and years and years to flounder before things get good, because there's so much money involved these days, Nick. You can't allow people to just kind of go at it the way that they used to, where it's like, well, we'll just kind of take 10 years off, or we're not going to be all that good. But it's still sports, and people are going to care and be passionate about it. Listen, there's too much money in TV. There's too much money in streaming, and all that stuff is dependent on eyeballs and views and how much advertising you can sell. And if you have a crap team out there for a long time, you don't have a product that people are going to buy or be invested in. Good luck to you, Chicago White Sox. For people, if you have to have people like invest extra dollars to watch your product next year on TV, I'm sorry. This is a train wreck waiting to happen. I mean, you're headed towards like a really a tough year. Let's just put it that way in terms of trying to sell that. Now, I don't know how that's all going to work. I don't know if it's like all of a sudden it's just going to show up on your cable and you're going to pay an extra couple dollars and people are going to be like, well, whatever. It's $2. I'm not going to have a beef about it. But my goodness gracious. I mean, if this is what we're going to see next year, I've watched, and this is probably bad for me to say as a person that co-hosts a White Sox podcast, I've watched so little White Sox baseball this year, Nick. If this is what we're going to get something similar next year, you could take it away from me all for the entire year, and I probably wouldn't care. I'll get caught up on social media. I'll listen to it on the radio. I don't have to necessarily watch. I really don't.
Howard asked, in terms of like fan perspective, which is, I think, the way you're going here, Pat, and I feel the same way. I'm slipping into the apathy is unbelievable. I never thought I would be this kind of just checked out. I really, it's a shame what has happened over the last several years. And when you follow this team so closely and you just see the patterns, you just know how this is going to go. And you don't feel like there's any way out. But Howard asked about Sox Fest. Do you think there's actually going to be a Sox Fest in 2025? And, the first reaction I would have is, well, of course not. They'll hide again. They'll want to hide from, because nothing has been really officially announced in terms of hotel, I don't think, or dates, but it's kind of loosely been talked about, I guess, like it was going to be returning, but I don't think I've heard like serious details. So initially I'm like, well, I guess they're going to just cancel it. They don't want to face the music. But I think what they'll do is they'll obviously, hype up the 20th anniversary of the 05 team. And in my opinion, and I know there's so many people that are sick of it. It's like the 85 Bears. I remember when all their anniversary marks would hit, and there were people that would just roll their eyes. Here we go again. But hey, you haven't done anything. So this is the thing that we have to celebrate. And in a year that's going to be really awful in terms of baseball, you might as well just tap into nostalgia. You absolutely just use that 05 team. Promotions, have the players around, and that should be Sox Fest. You could also use Sox Fest as a change, as a new hope. Here's our new manager. Here's our new coaching staff. Here are all the prospects. Here are the young guys, just like they did in 2017 when Ricky came on board and they had all the prospects out there, Kopech and Moncada and Giolito, and everybody was just drooling and going crazy of Hahn, when Hahn we trust, and you won the winter meetings, and Here we go. We've got a plan. So I don't think people are going to be that goofy for it, though. I think fans are not going to be tolerant of the prospect thing, the new manager, we kind of have a direction, because I don't think they do. It's more going to be the 05 team that is going to draw people and just say, hey, the product at 35th and Shields is unwatchable. Yeah, you know what? I'll go down memory lane. I need some of that right now. I need to feel those good feelings, and that's what they're going to feast on.
Well, at first blush, if you would have asked me if there's going to be a Sox Fest, I would have said no. I just figure that's kind of a thing in the past. I don't think it's coming back. It was a convenient way for them to get out of it with the COVID years, and maybe it's more hassle than they wanted to put into servicing a fan base that they seemingly care very little about. But then, as you mentioned, and as obviously everybody else pointed out, was with the anniversary. So that would lead me to believe that there would be something. But listen, it could get ugly too. I mean, if you've got fans walking around,
if they do the Q&A, it'll get nasty.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I mean,
I wouldn't do a Q&A. I wouldn't. I would just do panels, and I would have, if Schriffin's still around.
Oh, good Lord in heaven, help us all.
He
should not be anywhere.
A problem.
No,
if Schriffen moderates, that could be a problem. Have Hawk be the moderator. Bring him back.
Yeah, just roll him up here. A couple 9-10 Stolies deep, and just let him just have a great time. Talk about how he didn't retire, he got retired, all that stuff. That'd be great.
It would be great for the organization.
Maybe have Schriffen do like a booth where he's making animal noises, telling people how to stand up. Okay, now this is when I say Southside stand up, you stand up.
Everything's going great. Everything is going just swimmingly. I think you remove the Q&A, you just do panels, and you have the 05 team, of course. You have folks reliving the memories, and you're going to have to introduce probably the new manager, and which will be, I'm sure, Sizemore, of course, but their coaching staff, whatever the vision is. I'm sure Getz might talk, but they shouldn't do Q&A, because that would be a nightmare. But
let me just back up a second. Do you really think Grady Sizemore has a shot in hell to be the manager of this team? Like, in your heart of hearts?
He has they're going to give him so much more of a look than they absolutely will Ozzie or AJ or anybody that we think should get a look. Like, people laughed at me when I said Bruce Bochy should get a serious look. Like, they should really think about Bruce Bochy as their next manager. People are are you crazy? He hasn't been in baseball for several years. Oh, that's exactly what we need, is just an old manager. What happened with Bruce Bochy last year in the Texas Rangers? I get it. The Texas Rangers had an actual club, like a real club, a baseball club. But I think there's something to be said with a guy like Bruce Bochy that comes in. He talks, you listen, because he's got a record, man. He's got a resume, and he only was out of baseball for a couple of years. So does Sizemore have a real chance with this organization? Absolutely. I absolutely think he does. And if he gets on a heater and somehow they win 5 or 6, 7 games to end the season, which seems absolutely ridiculous and laughable, not only are you going to pay me a visit here, but they're going to give, Sizemore a real look. They're going to say, well, the players seem to like him. He's hungry. He's hungry. People are talking. If
Grady Sizemore gets hired as the next manager of this ball club, I will take Grady Sizemore as selfies of myself in the mirror as he was as the. You hear about those pictures? I forgot about these. Did you hear about this?
No, I'm not.
Oh, he took some scandalous selfies way back in the day when he was with Cleveland that leaked. And
my.
Yes, very risque. So I'll take some risque Grady Sizemore selfies, which no one will want to see.
Here, let's do this. Can we double back on the toupee situation?
Did I talk about that on the air?
You did. The Sox are going to win 30, so you're going to get out of this toupee situation. You're not going to, because that was your bet with your coworker. But if Sizemore becomes manager, I would say that the toupee should be. You should do a toupee for a week. A week of toupee.
A week of toupee.
Yeah.
There's
You
no
do a toupee for a week, and I'll shave my mustache on a live broadcast. On
all
a
right.
live,
You've got yourself a whole week, huh?
you got to do a toupee for a week. I will shave my mustache.
See, I think you're getting out easy. Like, listen, your mustache will grow back as you sleep. Like it'll come back in. It's like one of those Play-Doh things. Like all of a sudden, it's just gonna push right through. And when you wake up, you're gonna get the comb out and you're gonna be shampooing it again. I got to walk around for an entire week with a stupid toupee in my head.
All right. All right. Here's the thing. I'll say 3 days for the toupee, but the problem is people are going to see you for 3 days with the toupee, and then the toupee's gone. What happened? Like, what happened to? It's just like, wait a second. Was he just trying it out for 3 days? I think 3 days is a little bit more bizarre than a week. A week is like, oh, okay, you gave it a real serious commitment. 3 days is like, wow, you didn't even really lean into it.
Can it be a long weekend? Can I wear it, or am I wearing this like to my place of business?
It's gotta be. There has to be work days. There absolutely has to be work days involved. I'll give you Thursday to Monday.
Can I negotiate down to 2?
2 days. It's got to be Thursday, Friday, and that'll be perfect for you because then people forget about it over the weekend, and they'll be like, "Didn't you have a toupee?" No, I was just joking around. I just wore it for a couple days.
Now I've got naturally darker hair. It's starting to gray if it grew out. What color should I go with? Should I go like a bleach blonde or try and get more close to my natural color?
I would like you to get closer to your natural color to make this has got to be real.
So people think, well, he's really, we all can tell, but he's really trying to he's trying to fool everybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want. I want the fooling process.
All right. Well,
think about it.
All right. So this is Grady Sizemore, named officially manager of the 2025 Chicago White Sox.
Yeah.
Nick Murawski is doing a live shave.
Shave my mustache. Yeah.
That'll be great podcasting right there. Yeah. All right. I'm in for it.
Okay.
Let's get crazy.
Yeah. Let's get crazy. So Jerry's not going to sell the team. You know, he's not going to give it away. He's not going to step down. So I talked about this with Danny Miller on the Future Sox podcast on Hot Takes and Heaters on Tuesday nights. And I don't think you and I talked about it. I don't think so on an episode of Jerry needs a Christmas Carol moment. He needs to be visited by 3 ghosts to change his mind. He needs, ghost of Christmas past, present and future.
Right.
And that is how it could possibly be done. If he just has this Ebenezer Scrooge awakening and everything changes, and I was just wondering who those ghosts could possibly be. I think Bill Veeck has to be mentioned in there of, just kind of reminding Jerry of how baseball can be fun, should be fun. Veeck wasn't the greatest owner, but, he got fans out there. And what success did Veeck actually have? Not much, but the inventor of a lot of, fans were interested in the product. Roland Hemond, he was a legendary executive with the White Sox and who's passed away, and boy, he was successful. And I think that could be, a possibility. I had people tell me Harry Carey should be thought of as well. So it's something that I want to think about. If that's how it's going to happen. He's got to have a complete, turnabout. He's got to, because all these other things aren't going to happen aside from passing away. He's got to have, it has to happen internally where he changes his mind.
How about Eddie Einhorn? Like I don't remember, that was someone obviously him and Jerry were in together on as he was a minority owner of the Chicago White Sox. I don't really remember if he was something that was a good influential, like a good influence. I would think about Rocky Wirtz. Rocky obviously had a lot of issues towards the end of his life, but Rocky did something that was seemingly pretty bold. That's at the time. Like the old man passes away, and he took what was one of the worst franchises in all of sports and turned it into something that people couldn't wait to go see. And it was a thing. And he hired great people and he marketed it really well. And then obviously great young talent and success followed with 3 Stanley Cups. That would be the one I would want. Like, listen, you can do both at the same time. You can have a winning organization and still make a lot of money. Maybe you'd make more as a losing organization, which sounds kind of silly when you say it out loud, but there's ways that you can be very successful and be a losing organization. You can still have both though, right? If we're not in pro sports to ultimately win championships, why are you doing it? And I get it, the millions of dollars and billions of dollars that these franchises are worth and all the things that come with it, but why did you get in this business in the first place? Just to have it be like a fancy car that you keep in the garage with the tarp on? Do you want to get that fancy car out and drive it once in a while? Like that's what I feel like some of these owners are like. It's like, I'm going to keep the vet in the garage and I'm going to keep it covered and I'm not going to ever drive it because it's better there than out there where it could get dented or nicked, or I'm going to put miles on it. But is it really fun to leave it, just look at it in the garage? I don't know.
Yeah, that's Middleton out of Philadelphia, I believe. I mean, when he took over the Phillies, he's like, I got all the money in the world. I want to fill that trophy case up with trophies, with World Series championships. And that's what I'm out to do, and does it always work? No, but man, the fans love it. I mean, Baltimore's new owners, you look at some of these situations of like, man, I never see Jerry doing anything like that. He would never do that. Can you see Jerry doing that? No way. It's a real shame. It's a damn shame. It really is. So anyway, we're in the Sizemore world. He's got some supporting cast around him. Sox haven't really benefited at all. They had an odd day off on Sunday, which I can't remember the last time they didn't play a game, in the summer on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But they've got New York Yankees up next and then off to Houston.
I'm sure that'll be real good.
Both of those, I'm sure, will go absolutely great. Pedro Grifol quote of the week coming up in just a moment. Here's your Ozzie Guillen quote that ties in with Pedro that Guillen said just recently, I believe, regarding Pedro's record. This was before Pedro was canned, but still pretty recently. That means Pedro is 100 games under 500 from the time he got the job, said Ozzie Guillen on NBC Sports Chicago. I've got to go to the psychologist tomorrow. A few years ago, I was a happy man. Now I'm bitter and weird because I don't think I was a bad manager, but they picked Pedro in front of me. I love it. I'm sorry. I want more of that. I want a 2025 of just.
It would be fun. At least it would be fun and interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Let's just have some fun. Okay, this team isn't going anywhere. We've come to that conclusion after this whole therapy session and many other sessions. This is episode 283. I was saying from day one, nothing's going to change while Jerry's around. So let's just have some fun. Maybe it's not everybody's brand of fun, but I think Ozzie in the dugout would be.
We would just hilarious. It would just be the whole show would be Ozzie Guillen quotes of the week.
There you go. It would make things a lot easier. That's for sure. Okay, so here's your. I think it's going to be your final Pedro Grifol quote of the week, unless something emerges and there's a resurface and there's something else. But this was one of the best. It was one of the originals and one of the all-time best. This was from the day he was hired, when Pedro Grifol was hired way back when. We will communicate. We will be fundamentally sound. We will play with passion, pride for this uniform. This means something. We will respect the game, our fans, and earn their trust. We will be prepared to control the strike zone on both sides of the ball. We will work hard and play winning baseball every night. We will definitely hold each other accountable. I truly see great things happening here. I'm really excited to be a part of it. Goodbye, Pedro.
Well, that's a great one to send them off on. Probably one of the originals. Probably one of, when we heard it first, Nick. I think we were a little excited, right? We were just coming off the
Sure.
low of
Sure.
Tony and that whole drama and discussing for 2 years Tony La Russa, and here comes young Pedro, right? Maybe it was a little bit of a curious hire, didn't really know much about him, but listen, he's saying all the right things, and as long as it's not that evil Tony La Russa, we'll be in great shape. Whew. I've been wrong before. I can't say I've ever been that wrong.
Yeah, what an absolute disaster. He is gone. The bad man's gone, and a bunch of the folks that he had with him. So it is a new era. It kind of feels like the same era, but time will tell. I'm really curious to hear more of these names that could be on this managerial search. But thank you so much to the folks with us this evening, joining us on the stream on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Set your notifications, smash the like button, all those good things. We do really appreciate it. The audio available absolutely everywhere. We're on all the socials. You know us on Twitter X at Good Guys TB, and we've got a Facebook fan page. Pat, always a pleasure, buddy. I'm feeling a little bit better, but boy, I feel like it's a dark, dark tunnel here.
That's a great name for this episode. We're in a dark, dark tunnel, but
Dark tunnel.
we'll do it again next week. Why not? We got nothing else to do at 9:15 on a Sunday night.
Sounds good, man. Always a pleasure, buddy. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.